Okay. Um, Bismillah, and thank you everyone for coming to our next session of the Sufi path of knowledge. Um, so we're just gonna pick up from where we left off, inshallah. And yeah, let's just do it. Okay, who would like to read, please? I think this is where we stopped off, if I'm not mistaken, right? Page 34. But let's just go over this paragraph again. Okay. Who wants to give this a stab? So, what are God's names? Otherwise, I can just read it.
Are we just reading the English?
We are just reading the English. That is correct, Hasina. Yes. I mean, really, so this is like more of like a book club. That's it. Like, we're just maybe commenting on a few things here and there, but we're just going through the English. That's it.
Okay, I can read this paragraph.
All right, go ahead. Bismillah.
What are God's names? Several points need clarifying. The names are different from the words which we employ in referring to them. The names are relationships, not entities or existing things. Each name denotes both the essence and a specific meaning peculiar to itself. The specific meaning of a name can be called its reality or root. The reality of the name determines the effects or properties of the name within the cosmos.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And that's really like a very apt summary of what we're going to read because all the divine names, they're called the Asma al Husna. The Asma al Husna, they denote the haqa'iq, right? Which is al-amr fi nafsi, the way things are. They denote reality itself. And so, one of the most interesting things you're going to see is that the names that we call God with, those are called the names of the names. They're not the names themselves, right? Those are names we give to the haqa'iq, but you can only actually know the haqa'iq, the asma al-husna themselves by tasting them, right? Um, does anyone want to carry on with this section, please? Okay, so we got the names of the names.
Salam.
So, oh, wait, sorry, see, Petro, where were you? Wa alaikum assalam. Go ahead, please. Yes, yes, yes.
Okay, Bismillah, the names of the names. The words which we call divine names are not strictly speaking the names themselves, but the names of the names, Asma al-Asma, which have been revealed by God to his servants through the Quran and other scriptures. You should know that the divine names which we have are the names of the divine names. God named himself by them in respect to the fact that he is the speaker, al-Mutakalim, who reveals by means of his speech.
By the way, guys, whenever you see a paragraph that's indented and it's smaller font, that's Ibn Arabi speaking. 99% of the time from the Futuhat al-Makkiyah. So you can see in brackets, if there's a number, that's from the Futuhat. Okay? So whenever you see a paragraph like this is Ibn Arabi speaking. And then when you get back to the big font, that's William Chittick. Sorry, see, go ahead.
Okay. Revelation, through which we learn the names of the names, makes known the nature of things. Without it, true knowledge of existence is impossible. Revelation is an outward form, surah, while God's own knowledge of himself and the cosmos is the inner meaning, ma'na, the spirit and life behind the form. In a parallel manner, the outward forms of the cosmos reflect the name All-Merciful, Al-Rahman, whose breath, nafas, is the underlying stuff of the universe. God, as the All-Merciful, breathes out while speaking, and the words that take form in his breath are the existent things of the cosmos and the scriptures through which true knowledge of the nature of things is imparted to human beings. The names of the names thus possess a dual ontological reality. On the one hand, they are creatures, or the manifestations of the divine names within the breath of the All-Merciful, and on the other, they are the words naming God and revealed in the scriptures. God says, "Call upon Allah or call upon the All-Merciful. Whichever you call upon, to him belong the most beautiful names." Here, God makes the most beautiful names belong equally to both Allah and the All-Merciful. But notice this subtle point. Every name has a meaning, ma'ana, and a form, surah. Allah is called by the name's meaning, while the All-Merciful is called by the name's form. This is because the breath is ascribed to the All-Merciful, and through the breath, the divine words become manifest within the various levels of the void, which is where the cosmos becomes manifest. So we only call upon God by means of the form of the name.
Okay, thank you. See, I'm just going to
Mhm.
interrupt you for 1 second so I can clarify this point because subhanAllah, even in the beginning, he already gets quite heavy-handed. So this needs a little bit of an explanation. So the names of Allah, they're called the Asma al-Husna, right? And so um, I want to make this more of an interactive session. Can someone and all of you give me examples of divine names that you have heard of, or you know of, or you even do in your dhikr?
The gentle.
The gentle. So what's the gentle? Is that like Al-Latif?
Yeah, Latif.
Yeah, Latif. And that's a really popular one. Yes, absolutely. And then like connected to Latif, you've also got Ra'uf as well. Yeah, sorry, someone else was speaking. Haq, yes, yes. You've got Haq as well. Haq is one of the most important ones because always in the writings of the Sufis, they say Allah or قال الحق, قال الحق or قال Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They tend to say al-haq or um, Allah. And al-haq, how do you translate that haq into English?
The real,
Yeah, it's a hard one, right? Yes, real's correct. What else?
The
the
truth.
The truth, yes. So you've got the real and you've got the truth, right? Um, because when Allah speaks as the real, He is telling you about things the way as they actually are. He's not speaking arbitrarily. He's speaking exactly in accordance with reality, the way reality is. That's why he's called Al-Haq. فالحق يتكلم عن الحقائق, right? And he talks about the realities. And he's the real, right? He talks about what is actually real in existence. But there's a third meaning to, let's say not al-haq, but the word haq. What else can haq mean as well? So you've got real and you've got true, and there's a third meaning.
rights.
Exactly, exactly. And now you've got a semantic connection. Semantic means language, linguistic. You've got a semantic connection between what is true, what is real, and what is right. He only speaks about what is right. Why is there a connection between what is right and what is real and what is true?
I, yeah, I think in the Fasus we did it was only through knowing what the right is of, and but it wasn't in context with Allah, it was context of things that only by knowing the real the reality of something can we actually fulfill its rights upon us.
Good, exactly. And why is that?
uh, I think it is connected to Anas Sabata, that the the reality of that, of whatever, a tree or your mother or your child, that the reality of that entity and its connection to Allah is what exerts upon us.
Okay, so
Yeah.
yeah. Thank you so much, Homa. So you cannot fulfill the right of someone or a thing without knowing its reality. You cannot. In what universe can anyone fulfill the right of a thing without knowing what it is? Impossible, right? A father wants to ask for maternity rights, but he doesn't give birth to anyone. How can he claim maternity rights when he's not a mother or doesn't give birth, right? And you have a pet dog at home, right? Uh, but you treat it as well as, let's say, a member of your family, which is absolutely fine. Um, but does a dog want to be treated exactly as a human being is? right? Um, each thing has its own particular reality. And so if you don't know what its reality is, you cannot confer its right upon it. Um, and there's just so much, there's so many examples you could give in that regard. And that's why William Chittick likes to use this example um, and say human rights, what we talk about as human rights in our day and age, which are important, they have very little meaning unless they're grounded in haqa'iq. And what are haqa'iq? They're divine. So it's very hard to confer your human right upon you until you recognize your divine origin and the divine origin of the whole human species, right? Who are created upon the divine form. So you've got al-haq and you've got the other divine names. And you've got gentle, latif, ra'uf. You've got the light, who's a nur. You've got the one who gives life, al-muhi. You've got the one who takes away life, the one who slays, al-mumit. You've got al-jabbar, the one who coerces. I think that's the way to translate. Also, you can translate as the tyrant as well. Um, you've got al-qahar, the one who conquers and subdues. You've got the forgiving, al-ghafar. There's also al-ghafur, ghafur and ghafar. There's slightly different meanings between ghafur and ghafar. And ghafir dhanb, right? They say ghafir dhanb is you forgive the sin the one time, but ghafur, you forgive the sin again and again and again and again. And al-ghaffar is he who brings like a whole shower, a whole great multitude of forgiveness. You've got al-wasi'a, the vast. And so when any human being wants to call upon God, right? He says something like, "Oh Allah, heal me." What he really means is he's calling upon a Shafi, right? Oh healer. And there's no human being who wants food, so he says, "Ya Razaq," or he says, "Oh Allah, give me food," but he means Razaq. There's a third human being who wants knowledge, so he says, "Oh Allah, teach me, illuminate me." He's talking to An-Nur and Al-Alim, right? And so you have a multiplicity of names, but the meaning of each name is Allah, because it all points to one entity. That's why the meaning, the ma'na is Allah. And the outward form of anything is Ar-Rahman. The outward form of anything is Ar-Rahman because it comes from the Nafas Ar-Rahman, right? And the Nafas Ar-Rahman is the breath with which Allah created the universe. And Ibn Arabi also has another origin story about that. It's to do with the divine names. Sorry, see Petro. We can keep on reading.
Sure. Every name has two forms. One form is with us in our breaths and in the letters we combine. These are the names by which we call upon him. They are like, they are the names of the divine names and are like robes upon the names. Through the forms of these names in our breaths, we express the divine names. Then the divine names have another kind of form within the breath of the All-Merciful in respect of the fact that God is the speaker, al-Qa'il, and is described by speech, al-Kalam. Behind these forms are meanings which are like the spirits of these forms. The forms of the divine names through which God mentions himself in his speech are their existence within the All-Merciful. Therefore, to him, the All-Merciful, belong the most beautiful names. But the spirits of those forms which belong to the name Allah are outside of the control of the breath, not being described by any quality. So these spirits, in relation to the forms of the names within the breath of the All-Merciful, are like meanings in relation to words. The names of the names revealed in the scriptures are as worthy of reverence and respect, hurma, as the names which they denote. In respect of the fact that the real al-Haq is the speaker, he mentions himself by names. These names themselves have names with us in the language of every speaker. In the Arabic language, the name by which he named himself in respect of being the speaker is Allah, in Persian, Khudai, in Ethiopian, Waq, in the tongue of the Franks, Creator, Kretur, and so on in every language. These are the names of those names. They are many because of the plurality of relationships. Every group venerates these names in respect of what they denote. That is why we, Muslims, are forbidden to travel to the lands of the enemy with a Quran, even though it is but a script in our hands, pages written by the hands of temporally originated creatures with ink compounded of gall nuts and vitriol. If not for the denotation, the book would neither be venerated nor despised, so we have nothing in our hands but the names of the names.
See, Petro, what's God's name in Polish?
Bóg.
Bóg? Subhanallah,
Bóg. Yeah.
how interesting. Okay,
Mm.
you've got a footnote here, number 4. So I'm going to try and find it. And let's see if I can get to it. Okay, so that's chapter 2, right? And I'll tell you why, because we've also got more names as well that we can go through. Yes, footnote 4. Yeah, go ahead, see if you can see footnote 4 here.
Sure. A similar passage repeats these names and adds the names of God in Greek, Isos, Jesus, in Armenian, Astuak, Asfaj, and Turkish, Tangri. Interesting, Tangri. Wak means God in several Cushitic languages, including Somali and Oromo. Ibn al-Arabi may have known the word through his disciple Badr the Ethiopian.
Yeah, that's pretty fascinating. Now, Isos, he isn't too sure about it, so he put a question mark next to it, right? In the Arabic, he wrote Isha. So Chittick is just guessing. He's guessing that that's Isos.
Isus is Jesus, Isus, and God is Theos in Greek.
Yes. So did Ibn Arabi mean the Greek word? That's the question. Because in Arabic he wrote Isha, right? So is Isha supposed to mean the Greek one? So that's a really fascinating thing to think about. Zanira, go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum. I was wondering, so like, from the ayah that was read earlier, it looks like it's Allah and Ar-Rahman that are like, I don't want to say proper names, but like essence, maybe names of essence of Allah. And then the other ones are like the names of the names. So what is it about the name Al-Haq that so many Sufis, including the Shaykh Al-Akbar, use it to refer to Allah? Like they use it interchangeably with Al-Haq, like it is also a name of essence. And also I wanted to say the name Waq is also in the Quran. وَمَا لَهُم مِّن دُونِ اللَّهِ مِن وَلِيٍّ وَلَا وَاقٍ.
Yeah, although the meaning there is different, but yeah, it's as if the names contained in it. SubhanAllah, that's a really interesting observation. Thank you, Zanira. Waq, that's right. It's also in Surah Al-Qiyamah, if I'm not mistaken, right? Yeah, I think so. Because that's what it reminds me of. Yeah, so by the way, so each name denotes the essence, right? Including al-Haq. But why do the Sufis use it so much? I suspect because aren't the Sufis the muhaqqiqun? At least there's a certain group amongst the Sufis who are the muhaqqiqun. And they do like they take great pains to find out what reality is. So they're always calling upon al-Haq to show them reality, right? That's what would make sense to me. So thank you for bringing that up. Are there any other thoughts on this?
I have a question. I'm curious what
Sure.
Waq does mean in Arabic in the Quran.
Yeah, it's just like Zanira said, it's in one of the surahs. And I remember in Surah Al-Qiyamah, I've got to go back and look at it. But
It's
it hasn't.
Surah Ra'ad. Sorry. It's
Okay, so
Surah Ra'ad.
okay, so Surah Ra'ad, and I remember one of the surah as well. Yeah, do you have the translation on you, Zanira? And the verse itself?
No, but I think, yeah, so the verse itself is وَكَذَلِكَ أَنزَلْنَاهُ حُكْمًا عَرَبِيًّا وَلَئِنِ اتَّبَعْتَ أَهْوَاءَهُمْ بَعْدَ مَا جَاءَكَ مِنَ الْعِلْمِ مَا لَكَ مِنَ اللَّهِ مِنْ وَلِيٍّ وَلَا وَاقٍ. And then I think there's another one as well. But it just means, it means protector. I think the root of it is the same as the root of taqwa.
So it's not waq, it's waqin. من يقي,
Waqin, yeah, but
which
I
is
guess but it becomes,
حماية, which is protection. Yeah.
And then so, right. So then the jadr is it qi, qaf, and yeah? Isn't that what it
I
is?
think
Qi?
it's just qaf, like قُوا أنفسكم وأهليكم نارا, like just qaf. But I guess it's the same root as taqwa.
No, yeah, but I'm
Jadr
asking.
is waq. The waw alif qaf.
Wow, no, it can't be. Sorry, is that Yughada? No, it
Yumna.
can't. Yumna, hi, Yumna. La, it can't be. It's got to be something else. let me check it out briefly then, since this is a book club. If I do this, can you see what I'm looking at, or you can only see the Sufi Path of Knowledge text?
It's still on the Chittick book, yeah.
Okay, so I'm checking this out. So let me go take a look. Hmm. Hmm. All right, I'm just going through the dictionary.
Dr. Faris, I looked it up
Yes.
and it says that
Tell
the
me, yes.
jazr of waq is waw, qaf, ya.
Okay, wow.
Waqi.
Qaf, waqi.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's it. Thank you so much. Okay, let's just check it out then. Ba. Yeah, you're right. Thank you so much. Thank you for correcting me. So it is waqi. Yes, and so the jadr is for protection. So to shield, safeguard, protect, guard, safeguard, take good care of. Yeah, and then connect to waq is taqwa, of course. So jazakallah khairan, Yumna and Zanira. That's very true. So now waq we said was what language again? Not I don't mean the Arabic.
Ethiopian.
Ethiopian. Ethiopian. Okay, and I wouldn't be surprised if that's connected to Arabic as well, of course. Okay, brilliant. Yeah, that's really fascinating. CD Omar, this is obviously a thing for you because you run the what's it called, the Lisan, or what's it called, the Lisan Labs group. Yeah, Lisan Labs, right? Or is this a different Omar?
Yeah, I think it's the same Omar, Lisan Lab.
Lisan Lab, exactly. Yeah. So this is a question for you to think about as well, CD. MashaAllah. Okay, so you've got the names of the names then. Okay, I'll go through relationships. Okay, so Bismillah. In the previous passage, the Sheikh alludes to the plurality of the names. Why, one might ask, does one God have many names? Does not the plurality of names demand some sort of plurality in the divinity, right? Ibn al-Arabi answers the question in many ways. Because if you got many names, doesn't that denote a multiplicity in the actual essence itself, which should be one and basit, simple? So, for example, he points out that the names are not existent entities. They are not ayan. They're not existent entities. They are not like the creatures of the universe. Like I'm an ayn, my table and water and cup of tea are ayan, but the names aren't like that. They're not ayan. They are not like the creatures of the universe, which can be placed next to God as separate things. Rather, they are relationships, attributions, ascriptions, or correlations. They are nisab and idafat and nisbat. They are nisab and idafat. That's what the divine names are, that are envisaged between God and the cosmos. As soon as we juxtapose God and the cosmos, we perceive a relationship between the two. The relationship may be expressed by saying that God created the cosmos, so he's called the creator, al-Khaliq, and author, al-Bari. He also made and originated the cosmos, so he is the maker, al-Sani'a, and the originator, al-Mubdi'a, right? Badi'a samawati al-ard. By bringing the creatures into existence, he shows mercy to all of them, so he is the all-merciful. By guiding them on the straight path of religion, he is the guide, al-Hadi, and the benefactor, al-Mun'im. By the fact that he stands infinitely beyond the grasp of the creatures, he is the transcendent Muta'ali, the glorified Subuh, and the all-holy Al-Qudus. In every case where a name of God is mentioned by the Quran, a relationship can be envisaged with the creatures. Once God has created the cosmos, we see that it possesses diverse levels, maratib, and realities, haqa'iq. Each of these demands a specific relationship with the real. When he sent his messengers, one of the things he sent with them, because of those relationships, were the names by which he is named for the sake of his creatures. These names allow us to understand that they denote, so it's a dalala, they denote both his essence and an intelligible quality. Amr ma'qul, which has no entity in existence. So it denotes, right? So there's a madlul. It denotes the essence and an intelligible quality. Amr ma'qul, not something. So you could say the ayn or ayan stand opposite to the amr ma'qul, because the ayn is something that's mawjood, but the amr ma'qul is not something that's really mawjood, except in your mind, insofar as your mind can conceive of it, right? So the intelligible quality, amr ma'qul, has no entity in existence. But the property of the effect, okay, so that's hukm and al-athar, hukm al-athar, but the property of the effect and reality manifest within the cosmos belongs to that quality. So examples of these intelligible qualities include creation, provision, gain, loss, bringing to existence, takween, specification, ta'ayyun, strengthening, right? Domination, severity, gentleness, descent, attraction, love, hate, nearness, distance, reverence, and contempt. Every attribute, sifa, manifests within the cosmos has a name known to us through the law, al-shara'. Every attribute manifests within the cosmos has a name known to us through the law, right? So it's the law that tells us what these names are. The divine names allow us to understand many realities of obvious diversity, ikhtilaf. The names are attributed only to God, for he is the object named by them. But he does not become multiple, takathur. There's no takathur in the essence. If they were ontological qualities, umur wujudiyya, subsisting within him, they would make him multiple. So we get into a little bit of kalam. So the sifat and the asma, they are not umur wujudiyya. They can't be, because otherwise he himself would become multiple, and that's not true. God knows the names in respect of the fact that he knows every object of knowledge, while we know the names through the diversity of their effects within us. We name him such and such through the effect of what we find within ourselves. So the effects are multiple within us. Hence the names are multiple, while God is named by them. So they are attributed to him. They are attributed to him, but he does not become multiple in himself through them. As relationships, the names and attributes are contrasted with the existent entities, just like I said. That is, the things which actually exist, whether within the cosmos, the created things, everything other than God, or outside the cosmos, God himself, the essence or entity named by the names, right? So relationships are neither entities nor things. So it's not a shay and it's not an ayn. In respect to the realities of the relationships, they are non-existent qualities, umur adamiyya. Then he says in another passage from the Futuhat. So every time you see these numbers, that means Shaykh is quoting from different passages. Relationships are not ontological entities, nor do they become qualified by absolute non-existence, since they are intelligible. Like if I can think about it, that's not absolutely non-existent. It is what you call relatively non-existent. Relationships are non-entities within entities. لا عين في عين. They are non-entities that work and they produce their effects in entities, since they have no entities, but their properties rule over existence. Like if you talk about the property of Rahman, it's Rahma. If you talk about the property of An-Nur, it's light. So the property exists in the Ain. They have no existence except through their properties, their ahkam, what's called in Arabic ahkam. By the way, so we come back to real, al-haq, and rights, someone's right, their huquq. And what's the connection? Well, what's the connection between property and legal ruling? Because the word you use for the legal ruling and rulings, it's ahkam. But we use the same word for properties. What does the word property mean? Like, if I talk about the property of water, it's wet. It is what describes the reality of the thing you are describing. What is its property? The property of fire is that it's hot and dry, and water is wet and cold, for example. The property of the sun is that it's bright, and the property of a knife is that it's sharp, right? So the connection between legal rulings and properties is that we impose and give legal rulings based on the property of what the person merits in himself, right? You judge a thing in accordance with its actual property. And that's what makes a legal ruling just. If you impose a legal ruling upon a thing where its property is different to the legal ruling, right, then you're not being just, because you have not judged in accordance with the reality of the situation, right? So, for example, the property of water is that it is a liquid, it's not a solid. So how would you contain it? You have to find a certain container for it, right? Ice, it has another property, even though it's still water, but it's frozen. So you put that into a different container. And then if you steam the ice, right, you get cool air, which is still water, but in a different form. So the form of a thing determines its hukam and what you do with it. Does that make sense? Okay. Then we get on to the two denotations of the names. Any questions so far? Okay, so let's.
Dr. Faris?
Yeah, go ahead.
I just wanted to say that I think you mentioned that haq means rights,
Yes.
like the rights of something. But
Yeah.
haq can also mean, like, depending on the formation, it can also mean responsibilities.
Of
Like it says
course.
in Quran, حَقًّا عَلَى الْمُتَّقِينَ. So it's also like it's like its own opposite. It can mean right and responsibility, duty and responsibility, as well as the right that you can take and the right that other people have upon you. So like it's a responsibility on you, but a right on them.
Okay, good. But then that responsibility would still have to correspond to reality as well, right? So that would also be the connection. Great. Okay, so let's carry on then. The two denotations of the names. Every divine name signifies or denotes dalala, two realities. The divine essence and a quality specific to itself that separates or distinguishes it from the other names, which is called tamiz or tamayuz. Who is the all-merciful, the creator, the knowing, the alive, the desire, the powerful? In all cases, the answer is God himself. That is the essence, or he who is named by the names al-musamma. But to say that God is alive is clearly not the same as to say that he is powerful, since the two names denote specific qualities that differ in important respects. This becomes especially clear when we contrast divine names that oppose each other. God is both forgiving al-Ghafur and vengeful, al-Muntaqim, life-giver al-Muhi and slayer al-Mumit, exalted al-Mu'izz and abaser al-Mudhil. In all cases, the names refer to the divine essence and to diverse qualities, but there are never two entities involved. The slayer is the essence, and so is the life-giver. The names of the names are diverse only because of the diversity of their meanings, ma'ana. Were it not for that, we would not be able to distinguish among them. They are one in God's eyes, but many, many in our eyes. You see, it's interesting because to God it's just one. Were it not for the distinction, each divine name would be explained exactly as the next divine name in every respect. But the exalter is not explained the same as the abaser, and Mu'izz is not the same as al Mudhil, and so on. Though the two are identical in respect of unity al-ahadiyya. Thus, it is said that each name denotes both the essence and its own reality in respect of itself. The named is one, so the exalter is the abaser in respect of what is named. But the exalter is not the abaser in respect of itself and its own reality. And this is interesting from the Fusus al-Hikam, actually, this last passage. In the last analysis, every name denotes all the names, since each name is identical with the essence. In the Fusus al-Hikam, Ibn al-Arabi provides a succinct summary of these points while explaining a saying of the Sufi Abu Qasim ibn Qasi, which is interesting because Ibn Arabi has a bone to pick with Ibn al-Qasi. He thinks he's somewhat of a fraud, actually, but some of the things he says are valid and sound. So Abu al-Qasim alluded to this point in his Khala al-Na'alain, right, which means taking off the two sandals, when he said, each divine name is named and described by all the divine names. This is because each name denotes both the essence and the meaning which it conveys and demands. So each divine name is named and described by all the divine names. In respect of its denotation of the essence, it possesses all the names. So this is the other point. Each name contains all the names. But in respect of its denotation of the meaning, which belongs to it alone, it becomes distinguished from the other names, as in the case of Lord, Al-Rab, Creator, Al-Khaliq, and Form Giver, Al-Musawwir, etc. Hence, the name is the named in respect of the essence, but it is different from the named in respect of the specific meaning which it conveys. So in the Futuhat, the Shaykh makes the same point in reference to a saying of the famous Sufi Abu Yazid al-Bastami, Qaddasallahu sirruhu, right? This is interesting. So Shaykh al-Akbar says, Abu Yazid heard a Quran reciter reciting the verse, on the day when we shall muster the God-fearing to the All-Merciful in droves. He wept until his tears drummed upon the pulpit. So he literally, it is also said that blood flowed from his eyes until it struck the pulpit. So literally he cried tears of blood. He cried out, saying, how strange. So this ayah had a deep effect on him. How strange. Where will he who is sitting with him be mustered? Because you see the paradox. Because many of the awliya, if not all of them, are already with God. So then you get this paradox, this mysterium, in which Allah is saying in the Quran, we shall bring the God-fearing, the muttaqun, to the Ar-Rahman. So then Abu Yazid Bastami said, but what about us who are already with Ar-Rahman? How is that possible? How is that possible, right? So you get this paradox. When it came around to our time, I was asked about that. I replied, there is nothing strange except the words Abu Yazid. And Sheikh Al-Akbar does this a lot. um, you, you should know that the reason for this is that the God-fearing servant al-Muttaqi is sitting with the overbearing al-Jabbar. So he fears his chastisement, which is correct. The Muttaqi is watching out for God's displeasure. So he is careful with what he does, right? But the name All-Merciful has no chastisement in respect of its being the All-Merciful, since the All-Merciful, Ar-Rahman, bestows mildness, gentleness, pardon, and forgiveness. Therefore, the God-fearing servant he's mustered to it from the name overbearing, which bestows chastisement and awe, haiba, and which sits with the God-fearing servant in this world in respect to the fact that he has fear of him, right? So then on that day, what happens is that you're brought from the divine name, right? Al-Muttaqi, or in this case, Al-Jabbar, and you're brought to the name Ar-Rahman. So Shaykh Al-Akbar says there's nothing strange about that. So then he says, you should take every divine name in this manner whenever you aim to understand its reality and its distinction from other names, since this is how you will find the names wherever they have been mentioned in the tongues of the prophecies. Each name has two denotations, a denotation of the named and a denotation of its own reality through which it is distinguished from every other name. So understand. Are there any questions about that?
So why is Muttaqi, is he saying that Muttaqi is supposed to be a manifestation of Allah's name Al-Jabbar?
It could be, yes, yes.
Wouldn't it make sense that it would be a manifestation of Waq?
But I don't know that Waq is a divine name.
Right. But I mean Wali is, and it says Waliyun wala Waq. So like just by
Maybe.
inference.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
So I don't understand why Jabbar is like what's the link between Jabbar and Taqwa? Like isn't Taqwa like supposed to be a choice? Like we take the choice to protect ourselves.
Jabbar has many meanings. It's not just about linguistics, but Jabbar is connected to the Jalali names, no? So you're having taqwa of the Jalali names. Call Jabbar, call whatever you want, right? But the Jabbar is also the one who compels as well, right? But through a means of force, right? You don't really want to be the object of God's Jabbar, not really. So you try to avoid that. So and that's perfectly understandable in general. But certainly, I think you get the main idea, right, Zanira?
No, I don't actually. Sorry.
Really?
Yeah, I know. So I'm wondering, like, is he saying that muttaqeen are doing jabr upon themselves, or like why jabbar? I don't get why jabbar. Like, I feel like taqwa is a choice, right? Like people make a choice to protect themselves from what Allah wants us to protect ourselves from. Like, how is Allah? Like, is Allah choosing who the I mean, in a way, Allah's choosing everything, but yeah, but I don't understand why muttaqeen specifically are going to be with the Jabbar. Like, it even doesn't make sense. Like, shouldn't they be with a more Jamali name?
No. You are, yeah, I mean, there's more than one perspective to this. Of course, you're with the Jamali name in the sense that Allah's lutf is upon you. But where is if you are a wali and you are a saint and really you're muqaddas and your maqam's quite high, where are your thoughts? Your thoughts are with these divine, majestic names, and you are watching out for them so that you don't slip and you don't make a mistake. And so that is why you are obedient and you undertake acts of obedience due to these particular Jalali names, right? That's why you hold what's called the mizan, the scale, so that you weigh each action correctly, right? It's due to those names. But like in the next world, you won't have to. But in this world, you do. So you become conscientious of these names in this world, so that you get to experience in full measure the other names in the next world. That's what the main idea would be. Can I get someone to read this section? And let me just see how long it is. Okay. So we can stop here at properties and effects, if that's okay. And then we'll call tonight, inshallah. If I can just get a volunteer.
I can read. Salam
Thank you. Go ahead. Go ahead. Thank you, Sana.
Realities, roots, and supports. Ibn al-Arabi and others employ the word reality, haqiqa, in a number of senses, some of which will be met in coming chapters. In the present context, the Shaykh often employs it more or less synonymously with name. A reality is the divine essence considered in respect of a particular relationship which it assumes with the creatures. This relationship may be specified by a revealed name, in which case the name denotes the reality. Strictly speaking, the reality is then the name itself, while the revealed name is the name of the name. The relationship may also be specified by a Quranic verse or hadith describing God but not mentioning a specific name. In the second case, the term reality is broader than name, since it can be applied to all revealed references to God. There is no existent possible thing in everything other than God that is not connected to the divine relationships and lordly realities, al-haqaiq al-rabbaniya, known as the most beautiful names. Therefore, every possible thing is in the grasp, qabda, of a divine reality. Every divine reality has a property within the cosmos that does not belong to any other. These realities are relationships. The knowing has a relationship to the reality of knowledge different from its relationship to the reality of power. The property of knowledge possessed by the knowing has no interrelationship with the object of power, al-maqdur. The knowing is related only to the object of knowledge, al-ma'loom. Moreover, the object's situation in respect of being an object of power differs from its situation in respect of being an object of knowledge. Everything in the cosmos can be traced back to the divine realities or names. Hence, Ibn al-Arabi often refers to a reality as a root, asl, or support, mustanad, and speaks of the phenomena of this world as being supported, istinad, by the names. Reality, root, and support may sometimes be employed synonymously with the divine names, but more often they have a broader sense. Since strictly speaking, there are a limited number of revealed names that can be attributed to God. A point explained in more detail below. While everything and every event in the cosmos can be traced back to a reality prefigured by the divine essence. Using terms such as reality, root, and support, the Sheikh does not have to worry about specifying one of the revealed names, but can refer to various Quranic verses or hadiths. There is no property in the cosmos without a divine support and a lordly attribute. The root of the existence of dispute among the angels in the cosmos is the property of those divine names which have contrary properties, nothing else. This is its divine support. God has made each of the four elements both producer of effects and receptive toward effects. The root of this in the divine knowledge is his words. When my servants question thee concerning me, surely I am near. I respond to the call of the caller when he calls to me.
Just stop for 1 second, because otherwise one can just miss it just by going too fast. The dispute of the angels, do we know what that is, or does anyone need to hear an explanation? Because do angels dispute? Do they argue?
Isn't that part of their property that the angels love to dispute? And especially when Adam was created and Allah asked the angels to bow before him, that they disputed with Allah about
Yeah.
the creation.
Good point. There's also another Hadith Qudsi, and you're right, you're totally right, Tuma. And there's another Hadith Qudsi where you get like a friendly kind of disputation as well, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asks Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, what are the angels arguing about? And Rasulullah says, I don't know. And Allah asks him this question 3 times. Then he slaps his chest with his hand, with Allah's hand. And then Rasulullah said, I felt a coolness in my chest. And then he said, they are arguing about kafarat. What's kafarat? Expiation. Walking to the mosque is expiation. Bathing on a cold night is expiation, which means these actions remove your sins, right? And so they're arguing about which ones remove more sins than the others. And yes, Hasina, I agree with you. The angels are intellectually curious. Yes. Yeah. So that's one thing. And then the other thing is the 4 elements. Can you see how it's connected to the ayah? Because you either say that what you see in the world is connected to a divine name, or it's connected to a Quranic verse or hadith, right? And that's where its reality comes from. How? So what are the 4 elements? The 4 elements are fire, water, air, and earth. They're called the muwalladat, right? They bring forth other things. This is like a big section. You'll come to it eventually in this book, The Sufi Path of Knowledge, where he talks about how the elements they produce effects, but they also receive effects. They're producers and the receivers. So they're fathers and they're also mothers as well at the same time. They're also parents and they're children as well. So the root of the fact that they can do things and receive things comes from this ayah. How so is that? How so? Like at first, it doesn't seem like there's much of a connection, right? Until you think about it. When my servants question thee concerning me, surely I am near. I respond to the call of the caller when he calls to me.
Is it that God is receptive to our prayers and also like a producer of effects in everything that we do in this world?
Yeah,
But he's
exactly.
also receptive.
Yeah, exactly. He responds to the call. So if something calls forth, if something calls for the elements to produce something, it comes from this ayah. Ajib. It's really interesting. Yeah, sorry, please carry on.
The support of the present moment worked in the divine things is the fact that he describes himself with the words, each day he is upon some task. One of the sciences which the traveler gains in the spiritual station is the science of the differentiations among affairs and that to which these go back. Do they go back to a root, that is the divine names, or to the receptacles, that is the entities of the possible things, or to both? Realities, roots, and supports are all reducible to the things and situations known by God, that is the objects of the divine knowledge, ma'lumat. In one passage, Ibn al-Arabi explains this point while discussing the power of certain of God's friends to enter into the world of imagination and appear to different people or even to the angels in various guises. The root of this, he says, is the power of transmutation, the tahawwul, which is attributed to God in a hadith found in Muslim about the day of resurrection. God appears to people in different guises, but they keep on denying him until he presents himself to them according to a mark by which they recognize him. Then he transmutes himself into the form in which they saw him the first time. Were it not for this divine root, that is transmutation, and the fact that God possesses it and owns it in himself, the reality of transmutation could not become engendered in the cosmos, since it is impossible for there to be something in the cosmos whose very form is not supported by a divine reality. If there were such a thing, there would be something in existence outside of God's knowledge. But he knows the things only through his knowledge of himself and his self, nafs, and his self is his knowledge. In his knowledge, we are like forms in a dust cloud. Haba.
Did everyone get that? Because that's super fascinating. Yeah. Okay. Please carry on. Yes, Anna, go ahead. If you are talking, you're muted.
I don't think Sanna can read anymore.
Oh, okay.
But I can pick up where she left off, but I lost the place of where she stopped.
Yes, please. Okay, do you see on the screen, since God's knowledge?
Okay, yes.
Thanks.
God's knowledge is identical with his essence, or else knowledge would be an independent entity, and his essence does not change. Realities and roots also do not change. They represent the way things are in truth, that is, as they are known by God himself. How can a human being cease being a human being, or an angel stop being an angel? If this could happen, the realities would be overthrown. God would cease being a God, the real would become the creatures, and the creatures the real. No one could depend upon knowledge. The necessary would become possible, the impossible would become necessary, and order would be corrupted. So there is no way in which the realities can be overthrown. It is impossible for the realities to change, so the servant is a servant and the Lord a Lord. The real is the real and the creature a creature.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Hasina. Yeah, so this is really important. There's no tabdil in the haqa'iq. They remain what they are. You can never change realities. So it's really interesting because when people ask, can God do anything? The answer is, yeah, sure. But what he can do is related and connected to the thing in itself, right? It's not connected to changing realities. Like he can't, although he can do anything, right? But he can't, like, let's say, make an orange grow out of an acorn seed, right? An acorn seed must produce acorns. But he could somehow miraculously substitute the acorn seed with an orange seed, right? Or do something else that's like really crazy that hasn't occurred to my mind. But realities don't change, right? The realities are what they are. Which is why a servant can never become God, and God can never become a servant. The Lord remains Lord, and the slave remains slave. Um, so this is like one of the key points in his whole teaching. Uh, Realities cannot be overturned. Realities don't change. They are what they are, what they are. And I think we'll just stop here, please, and just call it a night. Can someone note down the page number, please, in the WhatsApp chat room? Because I don't have access to it right now. Page 39 in the WhatsApp, please. And let's take some questions. Yes, Zanira, go ahead.
So if realities can't change, but you said, like, fire is the property of fire is that it's hot and dry. But I mean, Allah said to the fire, Kuni bardan wa salama, and it's still fire and it's cold. So how did that change?
That is an excellent question. Let me think about that. God can do miracles, right? He can suspend the property of fire and make it cool, but I don't know. But you can't make fire something else that it's not, right? But that's an excellent question. I wonder if anyone else wants to think about that. I mean, if we're talking about the asbab, I guess it's a different story and question. And he will talk about the asbab at some point. He will talk about the asbab, which are called the causes, and how God does. He was called. He breaks the norm, right? He does خرق العاد, right? Or خرق العادات. He does miracles. That's not called into question in any way whatsoever, but it's by respecting the realities. He can obviously make if he can make fire hot, sorry, if he can make fire cold and cool, he can make, I don't know, like earth airy, for example, or air heavy, I guess. I don't know. That's something I'd have to think about, but that's really fascinating.
Also, like, isn't that one of, I mean, I remember reading in the Sheikh Al-Akbar's, I think it was in the Khalwa handbook, about the journey to the Lord of Power. And I think we read it in, I forget which class it was, but I think, like, the different inheritances, like the Isawi inheritance, for instance, is to be able to walk on water. But one of the properties of water is like flow, which doesn't really, support having someone walk on top of it. And so, I mean, I think it was in the Journey to the Lord of Power that every real wali will have at some point the ability to walk on water, to fly in the air, and to fold the land. And so all of those.
But Sheikh Al-Akbar is not calling us into question in any way.
No, that's what he said, is what I'm saying. Like, that's what the Sheikh Al-Akbar said. So then, but if you think about walking on water, like, I feel like that requires some sort of change to the property of water. Like, like flowing is a property of water, but if something's flowing, you can't exactly walk on it. So I don't know. But yet, certain awliya can walk on it. And Isa alayhi salam could do it. So it feels like there's either a property change or something that going on there, right?
I don't know how that happens, Nira. What I know is that he completely and totally affirms that ability, of course, which are miracles, right? Through the power of Iman and faith, flying through the air, walking on water, etc., and folding the earth, as you said. But I don't know what happens to the actual things in order to make it happen. But that's not. So he's talking about something else when he says that there's no changing the realities. That's not what he's saying. He is saying something else. But yeah, of course, he completely acknowledges those things for sure. Right, guys. Like transforming the salt staff of Musa alayhi salam into a moving serpent. Yeah, subhanAllah. Exactly. Transforming the salt staff of Musa alayhi salam into a moving serpent. Yes, of course, that's another obvious miracle. Yes, Noor, go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum, Dr. Faris.
Alaikum assalam.
So the question of miracles
Yes.
and the question of not turning something into not turning into something else, would the underlying factor be the belief of the person who witnesses this?
Yes. Yes. But the belief of the person witnessing it is not necessarily important to the thing. Like, for example, the staff of Musa alayhi salam can transform into a serpent. It doesn't matter whether the person observing this phenomenon believes or not. It has happened. The belief of the observer is not necessarily vital or necessary to that action happening. If that's the question I understood you're asking, Noor.
Yeah, that's the question. Yeah.
It's not necessary. That's why you can confound and dumbfound people, especially when prophetic miracles occur and you realize that this prophet is the real deal and this wali is the real deal. He's not someone who's faking it. The sorcerers during the time of Musa alayhi salam, they depended on what you were saying. The people's powers of observation, thinking that they were moving actual snakes, and using their belief to bolster their sorcery and power. But then comes along Musa alayhi salam, and he does an actual miracle, and that's not dependent on their powers of observation or their belief. And it's on the contrary, it breaks the belief. That's what makes the action so powerful.
Understood. Thank you, Dr. Faris.
Thank you. Most welcome.
Is it also the same as the water, like his? So it says, فَكَانَ كُلُّ فِرْقٍ كَالطَّوْدِ الْعَظِيمِ. So it's like water becomes like mountains. Would you say that that is like changing a reality? Because water is flowy, but mountains are solid. But God made the water solid like mountains.
I mean, according to what we're talking about, no, because realities don't change. Realities don't change. So something else is happening. I think it's best to be patient and see where this takes us. So right now we're just taking things step by step, yeah? With the idea that realities don't change. This does not negate the phenomena of miraculous, astounding, mind-blowing things happening. This does not negate that, right? But then what Zanir, you're trying to do is you're trying to ask the question, how do we tie this together? The fact that realities don't change with what we see from miracles. Let's wait and see what he says. He obviously has an explanation for that, but I just don't recall that at the moment.
But doesn't the existence of a miracle automatically imply that there is a break in our perception of the properties of whatever it is that we're talking about, whether it's water or air or this folding of time or space, that things other than the usual observations happen?
Oh, of course. Absolutely, 100%. And thank you for saying that. It's just that when we're talking about realities, we're talking about something deeper than that. And what we see with our own eyes is relatively superficial.
Yeah.
Like that's the barest surface level of what you're seeing of reality. There's way more to reality and realities than what your eyes see. So that's why we can witness and see these astounding things that Zanira is drawing our attention to as well.
Yeah.
There's much more to it than that. You know, that's why I love this line from Rumi, where donkeys remain donkeys, but if he has aspirations to join the angels, he can't be an angel. But hey, maybe he can grow wings. That's not impossible.
Mm.
Guys, thank you so much. Lovely seeing you all. And I'll see you again in 2 weeks' time, inshallah. Yalla, take care.
Thank you.
Jazakallah khair. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Salam.